From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to you, everybody. A very windy morning this morning, and we have the storm yesterday exiting the area now with some just minor snow across most of the area. We did get a little bit heavier across New Jersey, but most one is planned. The only area that did not perform as well, of course, is Northeast PA, but it was good to get to see some of the areas south that have been snow-starved get into some of the action, even if it's just a minor event. But we do have a few other events coming up this week that we're going to talk about. One is going to be in the very near term. That's going to require us to put a first call out actually this evening, and that's assuming guidance holds today. There has been a trend northwest with this area of low pressure that will be very fast moving, but will give a decent amount of snow to some parts of the area. We're going to get into that now. First, we're going to start into the long-range pattern, and this was updated by meteorologist Mike DeFino. And we do have the below-average temperatures continuing this entire month here, and he did outline a couple other threats here that we were talking about. Of course, this was our system. We already had the first system that was on the 12th. It was a very minor clipper system that actually did not affect us here, but did affect areas further north and northeast. And then we have this system here that went through last night. The next note threat we were talking about was the 17th to 18th. We're going to have to add in with the next long-range update. We're going to have to add in next weekend too, because I do think there's going to be another system that we'll be dealing with in that. At the time that he did this last week, we only included up through the 17th, 18th. This is still the storm that we're talking about, the near term, that we'll be putting a first call out tonight. And one thing we did add into this was March temperatures. If you remember, we did our winter outlook. We did this at the end of October. When you're starting to forecast going way, way, way beyond, and when you're talking about 5 months into the future, we expected March, according to our analogs, to go on a dime to a warmer pattern. So we were thinking early spring, and then that would continue right into the spring months. But now it looks like March will not turn out to be that way. I know a lot of people are really sick of the cold and in some cases snow. We haven't had a lot of snow across our coverage area here, but that doesn't mean that it still can't turn here in the next couple of weeks here to a much more snowier pattern. I think we're going to start getting into more of the snow chances here. Some of our biggest snow events actually occur in this part of February as we head into early March. So we're going to be watching those in earnest over the next couple of days here. First, I want to get into the QBO influence. The QBO influence is your stratospheric winds. These are what controls your Pacific jet stream, and all winter long these numbers have been very, very fast. If you look at these numbers here, once you're getting above 20 here, or starting right from here going onward, these are different months of the year here. So going backwards, here's December's value, November, October, September, August, and this is going back into last summer. And our latest QBO value is minus 26.70. This indicates a very, very fast Pacific jet. I can tell you that this is record territory here for how fast these zonal winds have been. This has just ripped apart the ridges out west. It is allowing for the cold to settle in here. We've had plenty of cold. That hasn't been the issue. The issue has been lack of amplification in the jet stream, and that has not allowed these storms to either, one, not come up to our latitude, two, be northern stream dominant, where you're just doing weak systems instead of bigger systems like clippers and things like that, and three, does not allow for any blocking, and it's very progressive, very fast moving. So what do we mean by progressive? Here is a look at the progressive pattern here. We're dealing with, you see ridges start to get going out here. Okay, but then it's just flat downstream here. Here's your trough, okay? So it does allow for cold air to come in, and that's great. But with a very fast Pacific jet going over this top of this ridge here, when this ridge really tries to get going up to Alaska, which we need in order to have these the big amplification of the jet stream, it's getting crushed by the QBO here. The fast Pacific jet is a result of the QBO being so high. And so these ridges really can never get going out here. Very, very warm sea surface temperatures out here in the Gulf of Alaska all the way down to the west coast of the United States. So this also promotes a ridge. So the ridge is starting to develop here, and it has been all winter. and it looks great. Look at the long-range models, and they say, okay, wow, we're going to have a big bridge next week, big trough in the east, big storm chance. And then it gets closer to the storm, and then the storm fizzles, and people are like, well, what's going on? Why we can't trust the models, 5-7 days out when they keep showing these big storms and they keep disappearing? Well, that's because they're keying on the idea of this ridge being here, and the ridge starts to form based on the teleconnections of the atmosphere, but then it gets ripped apart by this the very fast Pacific jet, and so you're just left with more of a flat look. And this is very fast, very progressive, very northern stream dominant. Okay, that's what progressiveness will do. So we're seeing some signs that might change, and the key word there is might. All right, but I do think you have a better chance now. We're starting to get the southern stream involved here. Once you get the southern stream involved, you get more moisture involved with systems. So even though they can stay progressive, you can still get more amped systems that can dump more snow, and that's what we might be dealing with here on Tuesday. Let's get the Madden-Julian Oscillation now. Madden-Julian Oscillation, as we spoke about in the past here, is a measure of the convection along the international date line and the equator. Here is the equator, kind of going west to east like this, okay? Here is your international date line at 180 degrees. Okay, the United States is over here. We are right here. All right, this is still showing a phase 8 signal. All right, so we're in phase 8. Phase 8 is very conducive for East Coast storms. What this does is you have the convection out here by the date line. It will throw heights at this ridge out here and allow it to pump up along the western United States. You also have the sea surface temperatures are very warm. That's also contributing to this ridge. So if you get the ridge to just go up high enough, just a little bit, you're going to get a trough in the east and a bigger amplification, and that's what the Madden-Julian Oscillation will do. It'll allow that to happen. Now, one thing we're noticing from the last update, this is the last update we gave, and this is where we had the models. The models were showing going into phase 8 and then continuing to phase 1 or going into the circle of death. It is now this week, a week later. We did have it go into phase 8. We're stuck in phase 8 now, but it's also showing it kind of collapsing back into the circle of death. If you're in phase 7 or phase 8, these are good signals for storms here. But circle of death means that the Madden-Julian Oscillation will have no effect on the pattern, and the models are keying in on the fact that the MJO is going to be collapsing in the circle of death. What that does to our pattern here remains to be seen, because we really can't tell you what there's nothing favorable or unfavorable about it being in the circle of death. It just means the Madden-Julian Oscillation has no effect on the pattern. Warm SSTs are still there. We still have very, very warm sea surface temperatures all the way in the Gulf of Alaska, all the way down the west coast. So this is going to promote your ridging. You're going to have ridging here in the western United States. How far that ridge gets up here and really builds out west is going to be predicated on how fast that jet stream. The jet stream slows down a little bit, which it's showing signs of doing now. It might be late, but it's showing signs of doing that, slowing down. That'll allow one is as we're getting into the latter part of February here and early March, it's going to allow for more amplification in the jet stream. We might have some late season bigger storms. That's where we're headed. We did change our analog thinking here. Now we're looking at a 1980 analog. We showed in the long range outlook that we're talking about a cold March now too. This is really closely matched to March 1980 here, what we're heading into, and that is that most of the country remains cold. Okay, you see all this, and it's cold and the troughiness here. This is not extreme cold. We're talking about, in the scale here, about 2 to 3 degrees below normal average. Now you got to remember that March temperatures are starting to go up, so they're not going to be, typically average highs in March, except for the very beginning. You're not talking about you're starting into the 40s now for normal highs. So if you're talking about 2 to 3 degrees, this is in Celsius, or no, I'm sorry, this is Fahrenheit. If you're talking about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit below normal, then we're talking about temperatures that are going to be stuck in the 30s as opposed to 40s. If you're going to have to start getting into better storm tracks here now, you're going to have to start worrying about the sun angle. Sun angle is going to have a negative effect on storms. So if these storms start during the day, you might have the high sun angle where it might be snowing and it might not be sticking on the roadways. That's great. We really don't want them on the roadways anyway. I know people looking for days off from work or school or things like that. Looking for money to plow with. You can't plow if it's just wet on the ground. But so we're going to start dealing with that. You're going to get the sun angle higher. That does promote warming on the asphalt and things like that. Even if the temperatures are below freezing, you're going to have temperatures about 30 degrees, and it's going to be melting on contact on the roadways because of the radiational heating from the sun. So there's a couple different March is a much different forecast than we've been dealing with. It's kind of like the forecasting in February. You have bigger bust potential and things because they look great on the models, and then they just the models don't account for radiational heating and things like that. So we are going to start looking at things like that going forward. But I do think your storm chances increase and your cold stays into March, and it doesn't take much. It's only going to take one storm to make some snow lovers happy here. It really is. Let's get into the storms now. We're going to talk about Tuesday. Tuesday is very interesting. Originally, it was just a very fast progressive system kind of coming off the Carolina coast here, just heading out to sea like this. Maybe just a slight graze of our southern areas here. But now the trend has been, over the last 12 hours or so, to take this area low pressure and move it farther to the northwest. If it's going to move to the farther northwest, you're going to get more areas involved in our coverage area with snow. And the reason it's doing that, we're going to be more expansive precipitation field with this than these little clipper systems. These clipper systems that dive down from Canada across the Great Lakes, they don't have very much moisture to work with. So you're just dealing with northern stream energy, which isn't there's no Gulf of Mexico connection here. So you're talking about very weak systems. That's what we've been dealing with. Now we're talking about the southern stream getting involved. And whenever time you have the southern stream involved, you have Gulf of Mexico moisture that can add into this. And it will allow the precipitation to expand on the northwest side. And it doesn't have to come up that far north in order to get into some of these big snows. And both the GFS European model, both have been coming northwest. I haven't seen the noon run of the GFS yet, but as far as the latest run at 6E and the European model are now showing accumulating snowfall over coverage area Monday night into Tuesday. And this would be a plowable snow event at the very least for our central and southern areas. Okay, I still think it comes northwest here. I still think the models are adjusting to that. The reason I say that, as we go to the next frame, I'm going to go to the upper air vorticity here on the GFS. This is what we're looking at. Very progressive pattern here. Okay, you got a polar vortex sitting up here. Okay, you also have see the southern stream connection here. This is your southern stream. Your southern stream is now involved in this system. Okay, so you have your southern stream involved, and you have your storm system kind of going right in between here. This allows for more moisture to be thrown back into our coverage area here while remaining cold because the PV is keeping it cold. So it's a very tight fit here, but track is very important. A few miles to the northwest will allow that to happen, and I think that's going to end up going further northwest here a little bit yet, and that's because yesterday we had the southern stream sampled right here. The southern stream is now getting sampled by the models. So the models started adjusting and bringing us a little bit further northwest. Today, we have the northern stream that's being sampled. So the northern stream being sampled will allow these models to converge on a solution. Whether that is what it is right now, where it just kind of comes off near Virginia Beach or maybe just north of that and gives us a significant event for central and southern areas, or whether that means it's going to be further northwest because it's the energy in the northern stream is sampled now, remains to be seen. Okay, so what I think is going to end up happening is I do think it ticks a little bit further northwest here, ends up near the mouth of the Chesapeake or the Delmarva, and is going to get more of our area here into our coverage area in the game for significant snow. Now, again, it's very progressive, which means it's very fast moving. This isn't a long duration event. We're talking about 12 hours or thereabout, but again, a lot of moisture involved with this, so it just can come down hard for that 12-hour period. And you can get a good, for central areas right now, verbatim, we're talking about a 3 to 6 inch snowfall. From Philadelphia, around the Philadelphia area and point southeast, you're talking about 6 to 10 inches of snow. So this can certainly happen as long as the models continue to hold this idea. If they start going back south with this down here, that's going to get less of the people in the game here. If it starts going a little bit further north, it gets more people farther north into the game here. Okay, so this is one of the things we're going to be working out today. We're going to issue a first call on this system, assuming it's still warranted and the models don't go back south and miss it entirely. We'll do that this evening. Also, we have to look at this system here on the weekend. The models are starting to key in on another weekend system here. Another southern stream system coming up like this. Very fast moving again. There's no block in place. So this is very fast moving, very progressive, but you could get another significant snow event north of here. Again, the PV still in place, plenty of cold air in place here, so we will be dealing with mostly snow out of the system, which is great. A lot easier to forecast that than dealing with precipitation type issues. We will be following all this as we go forward here in the My Pocket Meteorologist Premium group, so if you have not signed up for that, there's still time to do that. We do this year round. This is not going to be just a winter issue. So people are saying, okay, well, it's already February 15th. Do I really need to sign up now? Well, we're also getting into very detailed discussions going into severe season. And since, again, we talked about March, how it's not going to be we're not flipping on a dime on March like we did with the winter outlook. It's very difficult to forecast March from 5 days or 5 months prior. But I think we did a pretty good job of the winter so far. March does look like it's not going to be correct as far as the warmth is concerned. But we will have snow chances going right through at least the calendar end of winter. So still time for that if you're just wanting to follow along for the winter threats. But we also have the severe threats coming into spring. So do check that out. There is the link to that below this video. Just look for this My Pocket Meteorologist image. Just click on it. You can follow it for the winter season only options, which will become into long range options as well when we get into spring and summer beyond. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies. Join us again next week, and we will get a better handle on some more systems. Hopefully this week will produce for the snow lovers. We do have a couple opportunities for that, and then we look to get into an active pattern here going through the rest of the month and into March. Take care.